The hiss of a bottle cap coming off, the condensation running down cold glass on a hot afternoon, the ritual of knocking off work and heading to the pub for a schooner with the blokes. Beer wasn't just a drink in Australia, it was culture, identity, belonging. But brands die, breweries close, the beers that defined an era disappear, and with them go the memories, the rituals, the stories told over stubby after stubby. These 6 Australian beers are extinct now, vanished from the taps and shelves, and hardly anyone under 50 remembers they existed. This is what we lost when they disappeared. Number 1, Resch's DA, the dinner ale that defined Australian beer culture. And here's the beer that mattered most, Resch's dinner ale, not just because it was good, though it was, not just because it was popular, though at its peak it was the biggest selling beer in New South Wales, but because DA represented something fundamental about Australian drinking culture that we've completely lost. Dinner ale was heavy, dark amber, malty, substantial. You didn't drink it to get drunk, you drank it with your evening meal, usually just 1 or 2 bottles, because it was filling. The name wasn't ironic. Australians genuinely drank this beer with dinner, at home, as part of the meal. That drinking pattern is extinct now. We binge drink at pubs and parties, we drink light lagers by the dozen, or we don't drink at all. But the idea of a heavy ale consumed moderately with food at home has vanished. DA represented a more European, more civilised relationship with alcohol that Australia abandoned. The beer itself was magnificent. Rich malt character, slight sweetness, enough bitterness to balance. It paired with roast dinners, meat pies, the heavy Australian food of the era. Drinking DA while eating your evening meal was a ritual millions of Australians practiced daily. When Resch died, DA died with it. And we lost more than a beer, we lost a whole approach to drinking. The pub culture that replaced it was louder, faster, more destructive. DA was moderate, domestic, integrated into daily life rather than separated into binge events. Its extinction marked a shift in Australian drinking from European moderation to British excess. Number 2, Emu Bitter Western, Australia's beer that still exists but died anyway. Here's a complicated one. Emu Bitter still exists. You can still buy it in WA. But the Emu Bitter that Western Australians loved from the 30s through the 80s brewed locally, tasting distinctively West Australian, representing Perth and the West, that beer is dead. What exists now is a ghost, a label slapped on beer, brewed elsewhere, a brand hollowed out and sold back to people who remember what it used to mean. Old Emu Bitter, real Emu Bitter, was Perth. The Swan Brewery in Perth made it. Generations of Western Australians drank it, and it represented Western independence from the eastern states. WA was different, isolated, proud, and Emu Bitter was liquid proof of that identity. The taste was distinctive too, slightly more bitter than eastern lagers, supposedly suited to Perth's heat and the hard water. Whether that was true or marketing didn't matter. Western Australians believed it, and belief created reality. Emu Bitter tasted like home. Then Lion Nathan bought Swan Brewery in the 90s, and everything changed. Production moved, the recipe changed, the beer became just another generic lager with a Western Australian label. The brand survived, but the soul died. West Australians noticed immediately. The beer they loved was gone, replaced by an imposter wearing its name. That's why Emu Bitter's death is the saddest. It died while pretending to be alive, and people who don't know the history think it still exists. But anyone who drank it in the 70s knows the truth. Real Emu Bitter is as extinct as Resch and Bulimba, killed by consolidation and corporate indifference. Number 3, West End Export, South Australia's answer to premium lager. West End is still around, technically, but West End Export, the premium version that South Australians drank with pride from the 30s through the 80s that's extinct. Export was different, stronger, clearer, with a distinctive crisp finish that made it South Australia's sophisticated choice. The green bottle with its distinctive label was a status symbol in Adelaide pubs. You drank regular West End if you were watching your money, but you drank export if you wanted quality. If you were celebrating, if you wanted to signal you had standards. It cost more, tasted better, and Adelaide loved it. The brewing process was genuinely different. Export was lagered longer, filtered more thoroughly, and the alcohol content was higher. It wasn't marketing spin, it was a legitimately better beer. South Australians knew the difference and were willing to pay for it. But premium beers stopped making sense as the market shifted. Imported beers became accessible, craft brewing emerged, and the idea of a domestic export quality beer seemed dated. The brand was slowly discontinued in the 90s, absorbed back into regular West End. South Australia lost its claim to premium brewing, and export became another forgotten footnote in Australian beer history. Number 4, Ballarat Bertie, the country beer that never made it to the cities. Ballarat Bertie was never going to conquer Australia. It was too regional, too connected to its place, too honest about what it was, a country town beer for country town people. The Ballarat Brewing Company made it from the late 19th century through to the 60s, and if you lived in the Ballarat region, Bertie was what you drank. The beer was solid, unremarkable, exactly what it needed to be. Miners drank it after shifts underground, farmers drank it after days in the paddocks. It was the third beer of the night at country pubs, cheap and reliable. Nobody waxed poetic about Ballarat Bertie's flavour profile or brewing technique. You drank it because it was there, it was affordable, and it did the job. The brand's downfall was its limitation. It never expanded beyond regional Victoria, never tried to compete in Melbourne, let alone nationally. When the big breweries started consolidating in the 50s and 60s, buying up small regional operations, Ballarat couldn't compete. The brewery closed, the brand died, and Ballarat Bertie became a memory. What's sad about Bertie's extinction is what it represents the death of truly local brewing. Beer used to be made where it was drunk, in small regional breweries serving their communities. Now it's made in massive industrial facilities and shipped nationally. We gained consistency and lost character. Ballarat Bertie had character, even if nobody outside Ballarat cared. Number 5, Bulimba Gold, top Brisbane's pride that couldn't survive consolidation. Bulimba was Brisbane's beer, brewed in the suburb of the same name since the late 1800s. Gold Top was the flagship, a golden lager in distinctive bottles with gold foil tops that Queenslanders drank with fierce loyalty. If you were from Brisbane, you drank Bulimba. If you drank anything else, you weren't really a Queenslander. The brewery was massive, dominating the Bulimba skyline with its brick towers and chimneys. It employed generations of Brisbane families. Blokes worked there their entire lives. Their fathers had worked there, and they expected their sons would too. The brewery was as much a part of Brisbane as the river. Gold Top had a distinctive taste, slightly sweeter than southern lagers, suited to Queensland's heat and humidity. You drank it ice cold, straight from the bottle, and it cut through the subtropical thickness like nothing else. The brand sold Brisbane identity as much as beer, sunshine, relaxation, Queensland pride. But Carlton and United Breweries swallowed Bulimba in the 60s, and consolidation killed the brand. Why maintain a regional beer when you can sell a national brand at higher margins? Gold Top production continued briefly, then quietly stopped. The Bulimba Brewery became apartments in the 90s, and Brisbane lost its beer. The brand died so completely that most Queenslanders under 40 have no idea it existed. Do you remember when every city had its own beer, brewed locally and drunk with regional pride? Number 6. Resch, the Sydney working class beer that defined the harbour city. Resch was Sydney beer. Not just popular in Sydney, synonymous with it. If you drank at a Sydney pub in the 50s, 60s or 70s, you drank Resch's. The brewery in Redfern had been there since the 1860s, a massive brick fortress that employed hundreds and produced millions of bottles annually. The beer itself was straightforward. Not fancy, not craft, just honest lager that tasted of Sydney summers and Friday afternoons. Resch Pilsner was the premium offering, but most blokes drank Resch Dinner Ale, or DA, a darker, heavier beer that you could practically chew. The brand was working class through and through. Wharfies drank it, builders drank it, factory workers finished shifts and went straight to the pub for Resch's. The advertising leaned into that identity, real men doing real work, earning real beer. No pretension, no aspiration, just Resch's. Tooth and Company bought Resch's in the 70s, and slowly the brand was absorbed, diluted, killed. The Redfern Brewery closed in the 80s, and Resch's became just another label, then disappeared entirely. Sydney lost something when Resch's died, a beer that was genuinely local, genuinely part of the city's working identity. Now younger Sydneysiders have never heard of it, and the city's brewing history has been forgotten. Nobody talks about these beers anymore because they're not just extinct, they're from a different Australia. An Australia of local breweries, regional identity, and drinking cultures tied to place and ritual. That Australia is gone, replaced by national brands, corporate consolidation, and homogenised taste. We've gained choice and consistency. We've lost locality and character. The beers that disappeared took with them stories, identities, and ways of life that we've forgotten. Remembering them isn't about nostalgia for the product. It's about acknowledging what we lost when brewing became big business and beer stopped being local. Which of these beers do you remember, and what disappeared with them? This was Retro Australia, where the past is still alive.